going back to the office is back, right? It's been back for quite a few years now.
Hello, and welcome to Mornings with Joel, Commercial Real Estate Podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Hello, welcome all to the Mornings with Joel CRE Podcast. We're very, very excited to have you with us today. Another very exciting show, and we want to thank you very much for being supportive of the show and the special guests that we bring to the fore. Today, we have a very, very unique guest. This might not be something that we generally talk about, but it's directly related to commercial real estate, and that is Mark Goldfinger from MySpace. And I think MySpace, this is very, very interesting because just to give you an idea, Mark, I was in Dallas this week, actually last week, with a group of other CRE professionals. And, you know, one of the biggest questions was, has office hit this bottom? What's going on with office? Is it time to buy? Is it time, just what's going on with office? And so we look forward to this discussion because it seems like you guys have your pulse on the finger and have some idea of what's going on. So before that, let me introduce you, Mark Goldfinger, General Manager for the United States for MySpace. And introduce yourself. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good, Joel. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you making the exception to bring me on. I'm really excited to be here and chat with all of our listeners, share a little bit more about our insights from boutique flexible office space. I know there's a lot of questions right now on, this whole like return to work policy, what large corporates are doing, what are small founders doing, what do people care about when they come into the office. So I'm happy to chat with you a little bit. I think it should be a lot of fun. And to be honest with you, going back to the office is back, right? It's been back for quite a few years now. I appreciate that some people are like, oh, like maybe it's coming back. Like, no, we're here. The buildings are full. The energy is incredible. And I've been coming into the office 5 days a week for, a couple of years now. And it's really nice. I got to say, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to dive into that. And I appreciate you sharing your time with us today. So tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you're the GM for MySpace.
Yeah.
And, obviously it's a relatively new company, not completely new, but a few years old.
Yeah.
And, how did all this come about? Because I understand you have a background also kind of in this flex space
I do.
genre.
I do. So we'll start at the beginning. We'll go quickly and then we'll get to the good stuff.
Yeah, skip kindergarten, okay?
We'll skip kindergarten. I got kicked out of kindergarten anyway. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm born and raised in Manhattan.
Me too. Okay.
I love it. I was born in Midtown, public school kid my whole life.
Mhm.
Ended up graduating from Hunter College with a BA in economics. I was captain of our, Division III tennis team, won our conference twice, went to nationals, got our butts handed to us in nationals, but we had a lot of fun while we were up there. But I grew up working in advertising. I started working at a really young age. And really fell in love with the idea of like, how do you sell someone the right way and being able to like really help make sure that you are problem solving and finding a solution for their need rather than just trying to like push a product on them.
Okay.
I had some great mentors kind of like growing up through high school and college who helped push me and like drive my work ethic, which I loved. I went and after college, I went to get my MBA in international business where I lived in London. For 12 months working for Deutsche Bank, realized that I did not belong behind a computer screen, which is ironic for this podcast, but that I did not belong behind a computer screen or on a trading floor, and I needed to be out in front of people. Lived in Bangkok, Thailand for 4 months where I wrote my graduate thesis, came back, continued to work for an ad firm, and then all of a sudden got an incredible opportunity to be one of the first 300 hires at what was a small company at the time, WeWork. Ended up spending about 6+ years at WeWork, helping drive their international expansion. I was one of our first sales directors in the UK, led the expansion and pre-sales across Europe, Southeast Asia. Ultimately, at one point was the head of sales for Greater China. Which was incredible of an experience, especially, being a kid from Manhattan, to see themselves on an org chart as the head of sales for China. But it would, we have some stories there, I'm sure.
Hmm.
And then ended up coming back, was with WeWork through 2019, got an opportunity to leave the co-working ecosystem, if you will, and joined a startup. We were an e-commerce aggregator. I was one of the first 5 employees, helped grow it to 200 employees and about 175 million in revenue. Had a lot of fun and was really impressed with what the company was doing, but ultimately kind of after the 3 year mark missed being back with like a physical product and driving a large team with like real day-to-day results. So Mindspace approached me. I saw that they were looking for a new general manager. At the time they had 6 locations. We still have 6 locations, but I've made it very clear, and Mindspace knows that the US is untapped from a Mindspace potential. And here we are. I've been in the role for about 9 months now. We have 6 locations across the US. Our first location was in San Francisco, which opened up in 2018. We
Hmm.
then in 2019, we opened up DC and Philadelphia. Then in the end of 22, 23, or sorry, the beginning of 23 and into the summer, we then doubled in size and opened up our third, fourth, fifth location. And here we are.
Okay. All right. Well, that's quite interesting. So, explain to me exactly what Mindspace is, and we'll kind of start there, because as
Cool.
you mentioned, you had a background with WeWork, and I'm sure a lot of people say, "Oh, that's WeWork 2.0, right?" So,
They
yeah.
definitely do. And a lot of people actually also ask me, like, what's the biggest difference? So I
Right.
think great place to start, Joel.
Okay.
Um, Mindspace is that we're a flexible office solution, right? We are a boutique office provider that can provide offices to founders, startups, small, medium businesses, enterprises, Fortune 500 companies for a day, a week, a month, a year, 2 year period. We really like we pride ourselves on being an agile, flexible provider so that we can solve the needs. Going back to that whole problem solving theorem, is that we solve the needs of when companies need space for their teams, but don't want to take the overhead of going out and finding the commercial real estate for themselves. So
Mhm.
we have spaces, we have 50 locations all around the globe. We're new-ish in the US, as you mentioned. We started in 2018 in the US, but Mindspace actually started in 2011 back in Israel. So it's been a lot of fun for us. Sorry, 2016, excuse me. So it's been a lot of fun for us. We have 50 locations worldwide, as I mentioned, 6 in the US, and we're constantly growing.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. Sounds good. So, you mentioned that it's flexible office space. And I'm assuming flex you mean from the standpoint of you're not signing a 5 year lease to
Exactly.
down some space.
Exactly. You have a lot of, as commercial real estate is coming back, a lot of CFOs are starting to really look at every single line item on the P&L. And
Hmm.
they're trying to understand like where can they cut their costs and where do they have unused costs. And they no longer want to see the balance sheet carrying 50 to 100,000 square feet of commercial real estate, especially when their team members aren't coming into the office every day, are worried about like how long they have to be in the office for. Can they still retain high talent if they
Hmm.
make people come back into the office? And then if they're not making people come back into the office, why are they even paying for this space? So Mindspace is able to step in. We have our current locations. We have offices built out for every single size company, and members can come in. They can sign up for a month, 2 months, a year, etc., and they can scale up and down as the teams need. So maybe a large enterprise is going to say, okay, for all of Q2, I want my team in the office, but Q3, it's summer, it's a little bit slower. They're only going to have to be in the office once a week. So they're not going to need as large of a space. Why is someone going to want to go out and get 50,000 square feet of real estate when they know that they're only going to use it for 3 months? And how much are they going to have to spend on broker fees to fit the space out, utilities, coffee, and make the space like energizing and exciting for the employees to want to come in? With Mindspace, great, all said and done, super easy, plug and play. Company comes in, you want space for 60 people for Q2 for this example. Great, we can house that. We can make it work. We can break you up into individual offices. You can all be in one office with breakout rooms, whatever your needs are.
Hmm.
My team will work with them to make sure that's able to happen. Then Q3 rolls around. You guys need to downsize a little bit because not everyone's coming in. You want to go from 50 people to 15 people, then
Mhm.
we can make that work because people are going to come on different days. Then all of a sudden in Q4, you're going to scale back up, really push towards that end of year close. Great, let's find another space for you that can house everyone. You've also now all of a sudden started to hire because Q4 is a busy season. You need to take on an additional space for 10 people. We can make that work for you. So when we talk about how agile and how flexible we are, everything that I think helps separate Mindspace from the competition or the other operators out there is that we really are able to be as agile as possible and make sure that we are solving those needs of the commercial heads of real estate, heads of facility, and the founders that are looking to make sure that their employees come into a space where they're excited to be in when they do have to be in office.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Now, earlier you mentioned that one of the questions that people tend to ask you is, what's the difference between this and WeWork? How would you actually answer that? Let's get that gorilla out the room. And there's a few other things that I want to talk about. So
I like it.
how are you answering that in the
Yeah,
marketplace?
absolutely. So in the marketplace, I think Mindspace is, like I said, like we still operate as a boutique startup, right? Even though we are a large corporation, we have 50 plus locations worldwide, and we've been around for, over a decade, we still operate very lean. And because we do that, we are able to customize the needs of each and every single one of our members. So if you have a member that comes in and needs a large office or a small office
Mhm.
or a large office with different breakout rooms, we can very easily tear down these walls, create the space that they need. So I think we are much quicker to customize and create these boutique spaces that our
Mhm.
members are looking for. In addition to that, I think, we put members in hospitality as one of like our North Stars. I think when people walk into our space, you automatically feel like you're coming into like your home. You're coming into a place where you want to be, and where the community manager knows who you are, knows what your business is, and also understands like how they can help you. Right now, we just finished tax season, right? We have a ton of startups who are first time founders and had questions on like how do they go about doing the taxes for the corporation. Our community managers are able to introduce those first time founders to other entrepreneurs in the business who are experts in startup tax accountants, for this example. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, we're able to make these connections with our members so that our members are now working more and more closely together to help each other continue to grow. So I think, when we think about what separates Mindspace from some of the other operators out there, I think it's the attention to detail that we put in our space. It's how quickly we can move and how agile we are to find the right space for each member. And that when a member walks into the space or a potential member walks into the space, they automatically feel this sense of belonging and they're excited and energized, and motivated to be here.
Yeah. I was looking at some of the spaces that you do have around the world, and what I thought was interesting is you kind of tie two genres together, if you want to use that terminology. And what I mean by that is it's office and hospitality. And you're kind of saying, okay, well, is it hospitality or is it office, right?
Oh,
But right. And that's kind of the thing. It's not just this kind of blank white sheet of paper, stale white office that you're looking at.
no.
I mean, these places are pretty homely. I should, when I say homely, I mean in a good way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course, of course. No,
From that standpoint, kind of
we're
eclectic, you know. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, and we're really proud. Like we have an interior design team, and I'm
Mhm.
super, super impressed with the work that they do. And every building continues to get better. And what I
Mhm.
love is that, you can go into a mind space in Berlin or in Tel Aviv, or in Warsaw or in Williamsburg or in Miami. And no matter which mind space you go into, you're always going to know that you are in a mind space. Your Wi-Fi is going to automatically connect. You'll be able to print. You'll be able to book a conference room. But at the same time, that Mindspace specific location is also going to fit the decor of the surrounding neighborhood that you're in.
Mhm.
So a building in the heart of London in the CBD is going to have a very professional vibe to it, right? There's going to be a lot of financial institutions there, most likely. You're
Yep.
going to have AI startups, which you have everywhere now, of course, but you'll have fintech companies, et cetera. And then if you were to step out of that mind space and fly to Miami and go to Wynwood, which is a much more of a creative district and a creative neighborhood in Miami, then you go into that mind space, and the space is going to be catered more towards creative and entrepreneurs, from the artwork on the wall, from the layouts, the dark wood to the light wood to the type of flooring we use. Every single piece of like aesthetic is really thought about in detail to ensure it fits to that potential member.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought that was really interesting because you have a lot of people that um, didn't want to leave their home because it's home,
Right.
right? And so
Yeah.
if you kind of have this vibe where it's like I have a second home where I actually do my work and I'm able to get away from my real home, so I kind of get that break in the environment, if you will. It
Yeah.
kind of seems to service them well.
It
Uh,
does. I very much agree.
yeah, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about if you have this data. I didn't, mention this to you ahead of time, but as regards demographics, and the reason I mention that is because you have an aging workforce. Like for example, you talk about growing up in Manhattan. I used to work on Wall Street, right? And so, you're putting on your tie every day, you're going downtown, you got your brief, I mean, that was the vibe back in that day,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
totally morphed to now it's, a laptop and a backpack and some sneakers, right? And you headed to
Yeah.
work at the same
Yeah.
place, right?
Yeah.
So what are you seeing in the difference in demographics? Because you still have an older generation that are used to going to work in one way, and then you have a newer generation that's used to working a different way. Who are these ones that are now coming back to the office place? I mean, are they younger ones? Are they older ones? Is it mixed? I mean,
I,
what are you
I
seeing?
I think it's first of all, I think it's a huge mix. I think you have people
Okay.
that wear suits and ties in our space. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they've started to loosen up the tie a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you have people in Miami wearing sandals and shorts, right? I think like it also all depends on like what location you're in. If you're in a location
Okay.
that's in the heart of the CBD, chances are you're coming in with a collar and Chelsea boots or white leather sneakers instead of just like some regular, basketball shoes. Again, I think the going back to the point of like we want you to feel like you're at home to an extent, like we want people to come in what they're comfortable with. Like there's no separation here, like it doesn't matter like what you're wearing, right? It's like we want you to be excited. But yes, I agree with you. I think there is a professionalism that maybe is no longer suits and ties, but you still walk around the space and people are, in sweaters or a t-shirt and a jacket over. Like there's still very much that like I'm in a workplace and I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting because I know a lot of companies are still trying to figure out the model to how do I get
Yeah.
people back, right?
Yeah, it's
And it's
tough.
kind of, yeah, either I put my foot down and I demand
Right.
this, or I create an environment where they want to come back, or, some type of hybrid.
And I
And it
think,
seems like you guys have kind of worked it out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no. And, I sit down with a ton of, heads of enterprise, like heads of commercial real estate, heads of facility who are all mandated from the executive team to be like, how do we get our teams back into a space? And
Hmm.
a lot of what we're talking about is like, all right, like what do you want to mandate from the team? Like, is
Hmm.
it the dress code that you need to mandate? Is it the hours that they need to log? Is it where they need to be and when they need to be? And like, let's pinpoint that. And typically we all end up agreeing that it's like we want them in office. So it's like, let's put aside like, all right, they don't have to be in a suit and tie, but they should be like in business casual or dress smart, as you will, right? And then it's like, all right, well, how do we get them to be excited about coming to the office?
Hmm.
And okay, well, if we bring them into a space like Mindspace, where there's coffee, tea, snacks, water, things like that, other people that they can talk to outside of just their team, all of a sudden that gets a little bit interesting. Then you find out that at Mindspace, we also offer, what we call Mindspace hours. And we have like lunch and learns and networking events where you could continue to collaborate with others outside the team. That then gets them more excited. In some of our locations, we have a rooftop where we also focus a lot on wellness. So we'll have Wellness Wednesdays where we host a sunrise yoga session. All of a sudden, there are all these different amenities that we put into our building and that we curate into our programming specifically for the members that
Hmm.
help those heads of real estate be like, all right, great. If we need to get our team members into a space and we know that they're going to like be a little bit like resistant, how do we make sure we bring them to a space that's attractive and we try and then fit all of that?
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper as well. And I'm going to circle back to that because I think
Yeah.
that's important when you talk about that. Now, some of the the space that you have, I understand it's a mix because you can have everything from a private office to conference rooms. And
Yep.
can you tell me a little bit about that? What type
Yeah.
of.
So our offerings start at what we call our hot desk membership, right?
Mhm,
So a hot desk membership is you come in with your laptop, you have all a 24/7 access to your home location where you would get your hot desk. You could come in, sit down at any of the like open area seating. There's of course outlets, there's Wi-Fi, you have access to the coffee, tea, water, printers, etc. And you come in and you plug and play. When you're done for the day, you close your laptop, throw it in the backpack that you mentioned earlier, and you go off. Then we have what we call our dedicated desk setup. This is a place where it's still bringing in your own stuff,
mhm.
but you have your dedicated desk. You can leave a monitor on there. You have a lockable filing cabinet, and you could leave things overnight. You could really make it your own. And then you have kind of the next step up, which is our offices. And our offices, depending on what office like location you're in, typically range anywhere from either a 2 to 4 person office,
Mhm,
scaling all the way up to 50 plus person.
mhm.
We just closed a fairly large deal down in Miami where an enterprise corporation took over the entire floor. So we really are able to completely curate the type of space that any founder, entrepreneur, small, medium business enterprise is going to need. And then in addition, let's say you're in a new city and you're not a Mindspace member, but you need to book a conference room for the day. You could go on to mindspace.com or you can go to one of our third-party listing sites and you could go book that conference room. Or if you just need a desk for the day, you can do that. So again, when we take all these steps back and we try and figure out like how is Mindspace solving the problem of people don't always know where to work or have the most like exciting place to go in to work, we're able to curate that environment for them, whether it's a hot desk for an hour, a hot desk for a month, or something for 2 plus years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. You mentioned about being able to leave your stuff, and I think that's important because a lot of people, yeah, they kind of got into this mindset of going into a open place like this, but then they can't leave their stuff. It's still too transit. It's almost like
Right,
you're riding subway and then you got to get up and take your stuff with you every
right.
night. So you never really get to make it home. But you're saying that you provide space where people can leave their stuff and really make it theirs.
100%. And it's up to the member of what they want, right? Like what's important to them. Do they
Yeah.
want like just because I sit in an 8 person office right now. But it's just me in the office and I have stuff moved around. So you can completely like curate the office the way you want. We provide you with the desk, chairs, lockable filing cabinets. We take care of cleaning. But if you want to come in and remove all of our desks and bring in your own desk, if you want to come in and have a sofa, like what if you want to hang things on the wall, like whatever you want to do, I want this to be your space when you walk into it. Like that's so important. And again, it goes back to that like sense of feeling like ownership and feeling at home while still having that morning routine, going to the gym, working out, showering, getting dressed, traveling to the office, getting in, getting your cup of coffee, sitting down in a different environment than is your couch, dining table,
Yeah.
or a foldable table in your bedroom. For those of us who live in the city and don't
Canton,
have
right?
right, we don't we
or,
don't
or
have a
London
full
or Hong
living room,
Kong.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really, we want you to be able to have that curated place.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting. Let me pivot just briefly
Yeah.
because I want to talk about what's in my circle as well. So, for an example, I know quite a few institutional investors. Some of the insurance companies and bigger bond debt funds and other things. And one of the issues that they're struggling with is, we went from offices being empty into a environment where uh, there's been a lot of talk of, well, maybe we can convert these to condos or apartments, right? Everybody's been having that conversation. And there's two problems that come up with that, as you know. One issue is there's no interior lights.
Yep.
So if you make it an apartment building, you got one light in the living room and then all the bedrooms are dark, right? Or
Yep.
something like that. The other issue that you have is the majority of the bathrooms are near the elevator shaft in the middle of the core, right? So you got to run plumbing out through concrete and rebar to all these other rooms in order to make it an apartment building. It just becomes extremely expensive
The full gut.
efficient to do that. And in some cases, it's cheaper to just tear the whole thing down and start all over. So have you been having those conversations with landlords, and what have they been saying to you well, just what conversation have you been having with landlords as it
Yeah.
relates to this? Are they saying the same things or something different?
So we actually, one of our locations, we actually have this scenario happening. The building, for the most part, outside of the Mindspace floors, are empty. The building's, fairly vacant, and the landlord is, or developer is trying to think of like, what do they do? And they've decided that they're going to create residential condos at the top floors. But when they came to our space and they saw how full we are, they were like, wait a second, we don't want to touch this.
Yeah.
Like, not only is this like you guys are operating at full capacity when for some reason we're not able to do this on the other floors. So developers or landlords are seeing us as a added value to their space because we are very good at operating, these flexible spaces and curating these experiences. So landlords want us to be in their vacant spaces, which is great for us.
Mhm.
But also we then provide an incredible amenity to any of the residential like tenants who are then in that building. If you
Right.
look at like all of the new all of the new development, like high end new development that's going on in Manhattan or in any of the suburbs or the or surrounding boroughs,
Mhm.
all of these developers are putting in like this like mini like co-working type space on like the second or third floor because they know people
Yeah.
want to get out of their building, they're out of
Mhm.
their apartments and be able to work in some shared space. So now you have incredible, beautiful developers who know so much more than I do, and I'm sure than a lot of us do, about how to build a luxury condo building, but don't really have the slightest clue of how to run a successful co-working space. So developers who want to then do that are actually coming to us and be like, hey,
Mhm.
this is something we're interested in. Can you help us operate it? Can you help us run it? Or we're going to take vacant floors in a building that you guys are in. We're going to try and convert it, but we want you guys to stay and be partners with us because we know what you provide to your members and what you can potentially help us attract to new tenants.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think of some of the high-rise developments that we've been involved in, and you're always thinking about what to do on those lower floors that will attract
Right.
people in. And generally the model is some type of retail over multifamily, right? We
Of
see that
course.
everywhere. Which is basically an exaggeration of what you've seen with the old bodega at the bottom of
Yeah.
the building, right?
As
So,
long as we don't ever get rid of the bodegas,
right,
I'm
right.
fine with us. Like this needs to continue to remain to be a staple
Yeah,
in the boroughs. Like there's no
exactly.
removing of bodegas.
That's right. Got to leave that there. So got to keep
Correct.
fond memories. But it's interesting because you think of what's visible to the eye, and most people can easily see a second and third floor of a building, and they don't have to necessarily look at but all the buildings up above it. But
Yeah.
if you did put in, just as you said, if you they generally might put a gym on the second floor or something like that. But if you put
Sometimes.
yeah, sometimes. But if they put this model in on that floor, if you have your retail and maybe your second and third floor is mind space, then that might be something that works really well.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we've found that it does, and I
yeah.
think there's a lot of landlords and large developers that are coming to us and saying, "Hey, we have these projects that we are looking to completely redo, in a post-COVID environment. We want to see how we can partner with you to do it." Or even, you have these beautiful hotels in Miami that are going up all over downtown,
Mhm.
and they're even carving out spaces, out of this 50 floor, they're carving out the, sixth and seventh floor to be 60,000, 40,000 square feet of commercial real estate. And they're like, do they want to have like a bunch of like subleases in there, or do they want to bring an operator in where we can come and completely curate and operate the space for them from a flexible workplace solution? And that gets really exciting for developers because yes, they have to invest a little bit to help us with the build out, but all of a sudden, once we're in there and operating, this is our bread and butter, right? Like we know what we're doing here and we're able to raise occupancy. We're able to
Mhm.
drive high desk rate. It's secured revenue for the landlord. Everyone wins.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually a good idea. We had looked at one model where the group wanted to put about two or three floors of hotel space in the
Okay.
building, but it becomes highly inefficient at just having that little bit of space.
Yeah,
But if you had a company like yours that could lease out those whole 2 to 3 floors, that's a different animal,
I
at that
agree.
point in time. So it makes it very, very interesting. What is the leasing box, if you will, for Mindspace? Do you normally take nothing less than, I don't know, 20,000 square feet, or, when you're dealing with a
Yeah, of
building, a
course.
landlord, yeah, what does that leasing box look like?
I think so for the most part, I think, I say our sweet spot
Hmm.
is somewhere between 35 to 45,000 square feet.
Okay.
Typically at that place, we can make the floor plate fairly efficient. Of course, it depends if it's a side core or a center core within the building, and like we need to work with the angles.
Right.
Anything smaller than 25,000 is usually typically hard for us to make really efficient
Hmm.
and for, both parties to win. And then once you get to like this like 50, 60, 70,000 square feet of floor plate, you end up just having like super deep floors where you have like interior offices,
Right.
and it's like no one wants to be in that space, and it like becomes super hard to monetize.
Mhm.
So I love the 35 to 45,000 square feet range.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really good to know because again, we have, landlords that are listening to this podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and please, I'm happy to have conversations with any of them, right? Like we want to grow. We know that the U.S. can be and will be over the course of the next 3, 5, 7 years the largest market within the Mindspace company, and we're super excited and bullish about it. We
Yeah.
think the back to work environment is really like we're seeing the right trends right now, and I'm excited about that.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And just let's take a quick commercial break for our sponsor. The Morning for Joel CRE Podcast is sponsored by impactmask.com. That's M as in Mary, impactmask.com. The world's most breathable mask that has 99% efficacy, which is higher than an N95 mask, and it won't fog your glasses. Check out the science behind these incredible masks at impactmask.com. All right, very good, very good. So we appreciate that. And I want to thank all of our sponsors for their participation in the show. One thing that I thought Mark was very interesting is you kind of have, again, me and you came from Manhattan, so we know what Manhattan office space looks like, right? And then, I've been out to Silicon Valley, I've been to Mountain View, I've been to all these areas, and it's almost like adult amusement parks, right? You got the playrooms, and you got the this
Right.
and that, and the beanbag chairs, and you got all this funky stuff that you normally wouldn't have in an office that we're kind of used to here on the East Coast. But it seems like you guys have kind of created a hybrid model of that. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. Is that the way you look at it, that you were trying to create, or the founders were trying to create a space that was very fun to be in, so it didn't feel like you're locked down in an office, while at the same time providing some privacy so that people can get work done?
Yeah, I think we wanted to create a space that was inspiring,
Hmm.
right? Like we wanted, it's not about necessarily having beers on tap and, happy hours till 4 in the morning. But it's really about like coming into a space where when you first walk in, you feel welcomed, you feel inspired, you look around and there are other professionals and creatives that are working and hustling that motivate you to then also do the same. And there are hours and days where it's like you need to be in your own office because you're just plugged in to getting like over the next hurdle in whatever, project you're working on for your company. But then there are also days where it's like you're not on calls and you don't want to sit in the office and you can be a little bit more distracted. So you're able to then take your computer and go sit in the common area. So I think when we were thinking about like what do we want our spaces to like to what do we want our spaces to have?
Hmm.
For us, it was like we want to make sure that they have a little bit of everything. You have your phone booths, you have your meeting rooms, you have your private offices, but then you also have like your high top stools at the bar top, where people sit around the kitchen and there's coffee and tea and etc. And people are making lunch. And then you have some soft seating areas. Like sometimes you want to go do a one-on-one, but you don't want to do it in a conference room because it doesn't need to be this like formal buttoned up
Right.
one-on-one, right? You can just have like a normal catch up with a colleague with a cup of coffee or tea, and you're able to go do that in the common area in the really nice, comfortable, soft seating chairs. So for us, it's like, how do we make sure that we encompass everything and provide the specific need that each individual is going to have? And I think that's really what we stem from. And again, it's making sure that when you walk into the space in the first 5 seconds, right, you get one chance to make a first impression. that those first 5 seconds when you walk into a space, if someone has never been there, you like they take a step back and they're like, this is awesome. Like I could see myself working here every day, right? And then you come into the space in Williamsburg, you have that reaction. And then like, the common area has exposed red brick walls and high ceilings, and this like warehouse vibe feel to it. And then you walk into your office and you have, 15-foot floor to ceiling windows that overlook either Greenpoint or the East River or, East Brooklyn. And it's like, this is like, yeah, I want to be here. This is really fun.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. I appreciate that. Let me take a little bit of a deeper dive because you mentioned about all the things that you guys do. But one thing also is I understand it's not just wherever you sign up, that's where you're stuck. You're able to use
Correct.
the service globally and no
Yeah.
additional cost. Is that accurate?
It's 100% accurate, right? And I
Okay.
mentioned we have 50 locations, right? So yeah, again, I travel a ton for work. I'm able to go to any of these locations. When I land, if I wasn't working for Mindspace, but I was just a member,
Mhm.
and I'm traveling to go meet an investor in London, I land at Heathrow. I turn my phone on. All of a sudden, I have an email from an investor. He's like, "Hey, I can meet you this afternoon, but I've never been to London." Let's say I'm like,
Right.
where am I supposed like I'm gonna go try and maybe there's a Starbucks here, maybe there's two seats, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden I open up my phone, I log into my Mindspace app, I plug in like London, I see that we have, 3 locations in London. I'm like, great, the investor actually, works down in Shoreditch. Great, we actually have a location in Shoreditch and in Old Street. I go, I find the Old Street location, I see that there's a conference room available from 2 to 3. I know that I could tell the investor to meet me there. I know that when the investor walks in, he or she is going to be very impressed by like the overall aesthetic. There's going to
Mhm.
be working Wi-Fi. There's going to be a conference room that I can plug a computer into and display everything that I want on a computer screen. There's going to be these amenities. Like it's going to seem that like I'm not this like disheveled person like trying to figure out like how do I meet an investor for the
Yeah.
first time in a random coffee shop. It's like no, like yeah, I actually yes, I'm a small time startup founder, but I actually have access to 50 locations around the world. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, that just provides like a level of confidence to our members and a level of convenience that our members are able to like have access to all of these locations. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you're on vacation in Poland, you're sightseeing and going through, a history tour, and you got to jump into the office real quickly while you're on holiday. You're like, great, I have 2 locations in Warsaw. This is phenomenal. Let me go pop in there for an hour while the family's still sleeping, get some work done. Again, I show that I'm a Mindspace member from Williamsburg, New York.
Mhm.
And I know that, again, Wi-Fi is connecting. I could print. There's conference rooms. The community team is going to welcome me, show me where everything else is. I could get the work that I need to get done. I sit in the hot desk area, close the laptop after the hour or two, get back to the family and continue the vacation. So having that all at like your fingertips or at the, all at the touch of an app on your phone is really convenient. And it's all
Yeah.
included too, which is what I love. There's no additional pricing here.
That's good. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, I could tell you spent some time overseas. You said holiday as
Yeah.
well, being on vacation. So
It's very, very
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Very
all
true.
good, all good. But no, that's good to know, and I appreciate you elaborating a little bit on the app and how that works because to have that in the palm of your hand is really good. And
Yeah.
you made a good point about the Starbucks thing. Starbucks really became a kind of vogue thing for people to do.
Right.
But I think we've all been in a Starbucks where somebody's trying to have a meeting or they're talking on the phone and it's like, will you shut up, please?
Correct.
Yeah, just
Right.
yelling. It's just crazy.
Correct.
And no
Especially,
privacy.
right. There's no privacy. It's like, it's not necessarily always the greatest impression. They're great for when you need them, but it's like if
Yeah.
I can book an office that is clean and has the coffee and tea and everything I'm going to want to give to my investor or to my, guest, like,
Hmm.
why would I not take advantage of that?
Right. Exactly. Very good point. Very good point. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. I wanted to mention some of the things that I thought was really cool. Your places have lounges and kitchens.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the kitchens? Is that like a gas station kitchen, or is this like a real kitchen where you can go in there and get something
Love
to
it. I love a good gas station kitchen. All right, let's not throw shade on the gas station kitchens here. No, I mean like all of our spaces are completely fitted out to have a full like service pantry. There's
Okay.
dishwasher, there's glassware. We don't use plastic in our spaces. We only use glassware. We're super sustainable, really environmentally friendly, so really important to us. Recycle, compost, etc. But in all of our locations, we have, if not one, but two, usually like a kitchen and what we'll call a T-point mini kitchen on every single floor. Microwave, dishwasher, sink. There's typically a blender. A lot of our spaces have like milk frothers.
Hmm.
There's coffee machines. There's everything you need. Like you can't cook up you can't bring a skillet and start,
Yeah.
sauteing some onions and salmon. I
Yeah.
also don't know how many members would appreciate that or,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing that on a work day. But you really do have everything you need. There's refrigerators. So all of a sudden, members are working super hard. They don't have time to necessarily always go out to lunch. You want to bring lunch, you meal prep on a Sunday. You can bring all your lunch in, throw it in the refrigerator. People don't take it, clean it out, bring it home with you on Friday afternoon. Like it really does have everything again that you need to feel like as if you were at home and being able to be in a creative, inspiring workplace.
Okay. All right. Well, that works. That's work. That gives you that feeling of being at home because you don't have to run out every single time
Exactly.
you get something. So
Exactly.
that's pretty good.
Also, lunch is no longer, $7 at Chipotle.
Yeah.
Lunch is now like $20 for a bowl with a little bit of guacamole. It's like I'm gonna meal prep and bring my own lunch here,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
I have a place to store it.
Exactly. Don't get me started on that. Food prices are going where you would think there's tariffs on food like that already. It's like crazy. So
Yes, I
boy,
agree.
oh boy. So, and then you mentioned about the wellness programs. I thought that was
Yeah,
quite interesting because sometimes at work you just kind of need that break to just
a
decompress.
hundred percent. A hundred
So,
percent.
what does that look like? And is that an extra charge or is it part of the
No, again,
program?
like
Or
everything is all inclusive, right? Like
right.
that's the goal here is to make this easy so that people can come and get creative and do their job. So all of our spaces have wellness rooms,
Okay.
which is a secluded conference room essentially or a meeting room, soft seating, maybe a place to do a little bit of like individual yoga.
Mhm.
There's usually a fridge in there if you have new mothers and they need to pump and they need to store milk, also super important.
Mhm.
And then in addition, we have all this programming that we do with our community managers where they'll put on, Wellness Wednesdays. So in Miami, in our Wynwood location, we have a beautiful rooftop where we have a yoga instructor come in every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. and do yoga for any of the members that want to do it. And it's free of charge. We have some community managers who are big runners. So they'll lead a Thursday night run club
Okay.
where, members can leave their bags in their office or at the front desk, go for a run, come back, grab their stuff. A lot of our buildings have gyms and showers in them, so they can
Mhm.
shower before they go home. Sometimes they'll go out after for a beer or two. But it really is all about like how do we get the members continuing to collaborate and really form a community. And these different initiatives and programming efforts that we can put into place are really valued. Again, you go back to all the way at the beginning of like why is a head of facilities or a head of commercial real estate going to want to bring their team into a mind space. And again, it's not just about the space where you put your computer down or your screen and turn it on and work 9 to 5, but it's really about what are the additional offerings that you can provide to your employees to make it a great experience for them. And when it comes to like work-life balance, and you talk about like new generations caring very much about the work-life balance, having this wellness piece into it only goes to show like how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that basically becomes a employee perk, if you will,
It's a
you know,
hundred percent.
being able to do that. Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's
All of a
cool.
sudden, my employer is making me go into a space that has free coffee and tea. Cool. They do lunches, once a week or some type of like mind space hour. Cool. There's a gym and bike storage and showers in the building. All right. I'm getting more and more excited about this. I'm no
Mhm.
longer going to
Mhm.
like an office park. And they have like curated programming with networking events, lunch and learns, and like a wellness Wednesday every week. Like, yeah, like this is all of a sudden like really exciting for me where it's like, you know what? Maybe going in Monday through Friday isn't the worst thing. Like I can get on board
Yeah.
with this. This is a fun place to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your website also talks about valuable perks and benefits, just to kind of as a precursor or as a sub note. What's that all about? From
Yeah,
that
they
standpoint.
I think a lot of it is what we've discussed, right? It's
Okay.
the perks of like being in a space that you're surrounded by other like-minded individuals.
Mhm.
I think anytime you could, surround yourself with other people who are also trying to hustle and get the job done, it only inspires and, gives you more energy and motivation to do it further. So I think that becomes a huge perk. Again, the mind space hours, the conference rooms, wellness Wednesdays, the networking events, everything like that. Like it really is an all-encompassing product.
Gotcha. And I wanted to also mention this about the professional development. And one reason I mentioned that, I was thinking recently, just, the last few flights that I've been on, and I travel a good bit too, but I'll listen to a master class instead of
Okay.
some of the old stuff that's always out there, right?
Yep.
Something that kind of gives you a little bit more professional development.
Yeah.
There's some good ones right now on Delta related to how the brain works and how to make your brain
Yep.
sharper and things like that, which I thought was very good. It was one on sleep.
Okay. I'm
But
a big
there's
Delta guy myself, so
okay.
I know exactly what you're talking
Know
about.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. So, but professional development is, I think, is very important as well. And I understand Mindspace is bringing that to the table, to where not only are you giving me space to do what I need to do, but you're helping me grow to the next level and
Yeah.
become better at what I do. So, just briefly talk to me about that in a little bit more detail about the professional development, what that
Yeah, of
looks like,
course.
what type of things are covered, what type of guests you bring in, what's
Yeah.
that all about?
So I think, in Miami, so there's a ton of different ways I can go about this answer, but so let's see if I cover it all. So,
Okay.
we host a ton of events every single month,
Okay.
and the events that we host are all to benefit our members and to give them like either introductions to influencers, to VCs, to experts who are doing what they want to be doing. So in Miami, we actually hosted an event. I think it was back in November of last year, where we had three VCs up on stage, and we did a pitch night for all of our members, where Damon John was our MC and moderator for the event, right? So all of a sudden, you have these entrepreneurs who are in the space with a 3 to 5 person business, and all of a sudden they're able to pitch their idea to the great Damon John. Like, what an incredible
Wow.
opportunity as I'm trying to like
Yeah.
grow my business. In New York, in Williamsburg, we have a ton of AI startups. So what we're doing is we're actually in the works of putting together an AI panel with VCs who have invested heavily in the AI. We have a CEO of an AI company that has done exceptionally well over the past year and a half. And then we have some members who are also speaking on this panel, and we'll open it up again, not only for our community, but for the local surrounding area in Williamsburg
Mm.
as well. So people can come into the space and hear about a topic that they want to do. We
Yeah.
also even polled our members and was like, what's a panel that you guys would be very interested in? The topic of AI and funding was like the clear winner. So that's what our community manager, our marketing manager, and our site manager went off and started doing. So
Mm.
when you talk about like events to like help like grow different companies, these are just two like easy examples of things that we do. In addition, and I touched a little bit on this earlier, is like our community managers know every single company and member that is in the space. So all of a sudden, if I know that Steven is having trouble hiring an engineer for his AI startup, and I know that Jonathan down the hallway is one of the best engineers I've ever talked to. I could say, wait, hey, Jonathan, Steven, like, do you guys know each other? Like, it'd be really good for you guys to grab a coffee. I think there's some collaboration and like some business that you can do, especially because Jonathan is a freelance engineer and looking for new work, right? All of a sudden, you start to have these like serendipitous moments that make it really
Mhm.
easy to collaborate with people. And those are also great ways to grow the business and to help with the professional development. In addition, we also try and bring in mentors. So again, leveraging like Damon John, who is a member, and the Shark Group
Yep.
is a member with us in Miami.
Mhm.
We're trying to put on a breakfast with Damon. So how do we all of a sudden start to like give our members an opportunity, if they've hit a certain level of success in their business, to then speak with and meet with Damon John to like get that expertise from him so that they could continue to grow their business. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways that we're constantly trying to get the members involved and leverage all incredible stakeholders.
Yeah. That's incredible. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is, did you think Williamsburg and Greenpoint would ever be a hub of activity like it is now?
No, no. I mean, I go like absolutely not.
Yeah,
My
you
my
would have
dad
never bet
was
on that 20 years ago.
no, my dad was third generation, and he owned a family hardware
Yeah.
store in Williamsburg, and like he never saw the majority of his customers because they were all like the Domino Sugars, the Gretsch guitars, these like large factories that like would just place orders over the phone. All of a sudden, you've torn down Gretsch Guitars factory and created, the first $1 million loft in Williamsburg. Domino Sugar Factory is now Domino Park and like one of the trendiest places to be. It's like I remember like having to get off the J train, and I was like, should I be doing this as
Right.
like an 11-year-old? And now it's like you get off the J train and you're like, no stress.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's really incredible. And I did want to mention also for all of y'all who don't know, Damon John is the founder of FUBU clothing and is also the one of the premier hosts on Shark Tank. So you might remember the black guy that's always extremely well dressed as Damon John. So for y'all who don't know, but that's really impressive. And he's from Queens, obviously. So so it's all good. But
Local as well.
that's quite impressive. One thing that you really mentioned would kind of puts the nail in the coffin on this is the idea that we all know it's less about what you know and more about who you know.
Yeah.
You're in an environment like this where you're able to meet people that it's only a few degrees of separation between you and the person you might really need to meet to take
Right.
it to that next level. So,
Right.
and it seems like just a membership in Mindspace does all that. For
Yeah, and our community managers are responsible for helping make those introductions for our
Okay.
members.
Okay. So it's proactive as opposed to just,
Very much so.
yeah,
And
no,
I'm really proud of the team.
that's important. That's important. So it's not just a random thing. So that is really good. I'm thoroughly impressed with this. What I
Thank you.
like in it too, and it's kind of similar to the name. You might remember what was the earlier uh what was it was I thought it was MindSpace, but it was something else. But it was the precursor to what finally, eventually Facebook basically came and dominated that whole market.
Right, yeah.
But it was
MySpace.
MySpace, there it is. Yeah.
MySpace.
So you had MySpace back in the day.
Right.
And it's not that it was a bad model, it was just maybe the timing was off as to be able to really get the traction they needed to grow. Same thing with AOL, right? Google
Yeah.
came in at the right time and just dominated the market. And what I'm seeing here is that, and I don't know if this is the case, I'm just kind of talking out loud here, but you have the WeWorks of the world, those type of companies, they came, blew up and no longer exist for the most part. But to have Mindspace and just a little tweak in the model has created something that is incredible.
Yeah, and I
I
think
was
you look
impressed
at
with all the locations you guys have. Go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, and I appreciate that, and I think you have large operators like WeWork and Industrious that have continued, are doing well or continuing to do well, and they really help set the stage, right, for what Mindspace could be, and we're still growing. We only have 50 locations. Industrious, WeWork, some of these other operators have hundreds of locations, globally. We're still, we're doing our own thing with our own like mission. And I'm really impressed by it. And I think, our members are excited to be here. We offer like a great boutique product, and there's something for everyone. But I think, all of the operators have really come in and like tried to really help change the way the commercial real estate industry is run. And it's been exciting to see that industry change because it's needed to be changed for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very impressive,
Thank
what
you,
you
Joe.
guys have done. Yeah, I'm excited for you. It's
Appreciate that.
yeah, you've kind of bridged this gap between, you have a very, very distressed office environment right now, and you have a very good solution that kind of bridges all the things that people want to give them a reason to come back to work. So
Agreed.
I think that's it in a nutshell. We got about 4 minutes before we wrap up and we're on time, and I try to keep it to 60 minutes for the benefit of our guests. But
Of
is there
course.
anything else that you want to add kind of in conclusion about Mindspace and
No,
what do you
I
want
think
to,
that
I guess, to walk
if
away with?
yeah, of course. I think I want the guests to walk away with that, back to, return to office is here and it's not a bad thing. Don't look at it
Mhm.
as a negative thing. I think there's some incredible office places out there. If any of, our viewers are interested in coming to see a Mindspace location, no matter where they are in the world, if they're in a city with a Mindspace, I'm on LinkedIn. Please shoot me a message. I'd be more than happy to set up a tour. For any of the listeners or viewers out there, I'm happy to give 20% off on your first month, as well as, if you just want to take a meeting room or anything, we're happy to get that set up. As a special thank you to listening to us talk for the last hour. And I'm just excited. I think, we have, it's been a bumpy start to the year, as I'm sure all of us could attest. But from a commercial real estate and back to office perspective, like I'm super bullish on 2025. I think the trends, are going in the right direction. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds really good. Give us your website again. I don't think we
Yeah,
mentioned
it's,
doing the whole
yeah,
thing.
it's, mindspace.me.
Okay. So mindspace.me. Very good. And you mentioned you could be found on LinkedIn. So that's great. So, Mark, I think this was fantastic. I certainly appreciate you carving out some time to be with us today and, get a chance to to go over these hot points.
Yeah, of course. Thanks
Uh,
for having me, Joel. I
yeah, and
appreciate it. This was
provide
a lot of fun.
some value for our audience. So yeah, so this was great. So thank you so much. So all we want to thank you for being here with the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. A very exciting show. We want to thank our guest, Mark Goldfinger. Excuse
Goldfinger,
me.
no problem.
There you go for being with us today. And we certainly look forward to having you on an upcoming show as well. Thank you, Mark,
Thank
and
you.
thank you all of our guests. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.